The first game that we have to talk about, we have eighth ranked Oklahoma, who currently is 9-0 on the year, taking on 13th ranked Baylor, who is 7-2. Oklahoma is going into this game as a 5.5 point favorite. This game is going to kick off 12 p.m. Eastern time or noon on Fox. Now, this is a very huge game when it comes to deciding who will participate in this year's Big 12 championship. Now, we pretty much know that Oklahoma controls their own destiny. They have the best record in the Big 12. All they really have to do to make it to the Big 12 championship game is handle business. And this is the first game of a very tough stretch that Oklahoma is going to have to play. They got to play Baylor. They got to play Oklahoma State. Both of those two teams right now are ranked very highly in the college football playoff rankings. And a lot of people are questioning just how good of a team Oklahoma is, because Oklahoma hasn't really dominated the way that you expect the team that's considered to be one of the most talented teams in America to dominate. They struggled against Kansas a couple of weeks ago. Early on in the season, they had that close game against Tulane, and it seems like Oklahoma hasn't really hit their stride yet, in my opinion. Now, they made a change at quarterback. They ended up benching QB Spencer Rattler for freshman quarterback Caleb Williams, and he seems to have given this team a spark. But even though he has given this team a spark, they still haven't really impressed nobody, and the college football playoff committee sees that. So this is going to be a big test for Oklahoma in terms of how they are viewed amongst the committee when it comes to the eye test. Now, when you look at Baylor, they were upset by TCU 30-28 last week. TCU pretty much beat them with backup parts. They beat them with their backup quarterback Chandler Morris, who was 29-41, 461 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. He also contributed on the ground with 70 rushing yards. And the secondary for Baylor didn't play well in that game. Now, for Baylor, you're definitely going to have a better performance defensively this game than what you did last week. And Baylor normally has a pretty good defense. Their defense probably is coming off their worst performance against TCU last week. And you got to remember that this is a TCU team that is without their starting running back, without their starting quarterback, and on top of that, they just fired former head coach Gary Patterson not too long ago. So this was really a game that Baylor should have won. So they kind of got caught in a trap game. They're definitely going to come out heavily focused in this matchup. And for Oklahoma, if you're a Sooners fan, you have to wonder how your defense stacks up against this Baylor offense. Now, Jerry Bohannon is coming off a really shaky performance last week, 14-20, 214 pass yards. He threw 3 touchdowns, but he also threw 2 picks as well. And there were some Baylor fans out there who feel like Bohannon is kind of holding this team back based off what he did last game. And I don't really agree with that statement because, yeah, he had a couple of crucial turnovers, but he also responded pretty well last week. So I don't believe that he should be benched. I don't believe he is the problem. He's played pretty good so far this year. He's had a pretty productive season. So I don't really think that Bohannon is, the problem at quarterback for Baylor. And I think that if Baylor's going to win this game, they're going to need him to have a very big performance. Now, Baylor has 2 really good running backs, okay? You have Tristan Ebner, who's their second running back on the squad. He has 601 rushing yards, averaging 5.9 yards per attempt, and he has a rushing touchdown. Then you have Abram Smith, who happens to be one of the best running backs in the Big 12 this year. He has ran for 1,055 rushing yards, 11 touchdowns, and he's averaging averages 7.3 yards per attempt. And it's going to be really interesting to see if Baylor is going to have success running the football against Oklahoma in this game, because Oklahoma, although their defense isn't all that great, they do have one of the better run defenses in college football. They're 19th in the nation in rushing yards per game allowed. So we know that Oklahoma's defense hasn't been great this year, but when it comes to running the football on them, this is a pretty solid front. So for Baylor, if they're going to win this game, they're going to have to be able to do it behind the arm of Bohannon, which I definitely feel like is something that can be achieved, because Oklahoma's defense has showed up in some matchups. You know, they showed up when they barely beat West Virginia, but I really want to see what this defense does against a really explosive offense. And Baylor is pretty balanced when it comes to what they do on the offensive side of the football. They can beat you through the air, and they can also beat you on the ground. Now, if we have to flip the sides and we talk about Oklahoma's offense matched up against Baylor's defense, for Baylor, you're going to have to get pressure on Caleb Williams, and that's something that Baylor hasn't really done a great job of. Dave Aranda kind of alluded to that, because somebody asked him in his presser, you know, what can they do at this point of the season to improve the pass rush? And he talked about, you know, spending more time during practice doing one-on-one drills, basically one-on-one. You got an offensive lineman, you got a pass rusher who's coming on top, and I definitely feel like if they're going to have to be able to win this game relying on their defense, you're going to have to be able to get some pressure on Caleb Williams. But also, Caleb Williams is going to be playing in a very tough road environment on the road at Baylor, and we haven't really seen Caleb Williams play in a hostile road environment like this one against a really competitive and good football team. I know he has played on the road this year. I'm not saying he hasn't. I'm just saying he hasn't played in a hostile road environment away from home against a team or a quality opponent like Baylor. So I want to see how he's going to be able to handle this matchup on the road playing against a really good Baylor defense. And I want to see what is Dave Aranda going to try to do to make Caleb Williams uncomfortable, okay? Like, even though Caleb Williams is a freshman, ever since he's taken over the starting quarterback gig for OU, he hasn't really had any games that made you say, okay, yeah, he's a freshman, yeah, he's struggling. So I wonder what the game plan is going to be for Dave Aranda trying to, you know, make life hard on Caleb Williams. Are they going to try to send pressure? Are they going to try to hide their looks? Are they going to try to disguise their coverages? What are they going to try to do to confuse and rattle Caleb Williams? Because if they can get the home crowd going and Caleb Williams struggles in this game, that's something that if you're a Baylor fan, you're going to be feeling really confident about your chances of winning this game. Now, what's interesting to me is the point spread, because the point spread can tell you a lot about how Vegas views a team, and Oklahoma is coming off a bye, and the point spread in this game right now is only 5.5 points favoring Oklahoma. Now, I thought that this would be a little bit of a closer spread. I thought that maybe OU will only be a 2-point favorite, and that could change because it's only Wednesday. There's still a couple of more days left until this game kicks off, so we could see this go down or we could see this spread go up. But I'm going to have to go with Oklahoma to get the victory. I feel like Oklahoma is a team that's reeling right now. They're a team that is on the ropes. If you ever watch UFC or you ever watch boxing, you know if somebody gets knocked down a couple of times, they get all groggy, and it's only a matter of time before their opponent delivers the final fatal right hook or the left-handed uppercut, and you have to wonder if Baylor is that team. I don't think so. I think that Oklahoma is going to be able to escape with the win in this game. I think it's going to be hard fought, but I don't really know just how effective Baylor's secondary is going to be against Oklahoma's passing game. Okay, and if Baylor had a better pass rush, if Baylor had one of the better pass rushers in the in the nation, I probably would take them, but I just haven't really been that impressed with their ability to get pressure on the quarterback this year, and that's why I got to take Oklahoma to win this game, because I feel like even if you do give Oklahoma some problems and you do have them in a tight game, they still have that ability to escape, because the best teams in college football have that ability to escape with the win, and I feel like that's what Baylor isn't going to be able to do. They're not going to be able to shut down that escapability factor that Oklahoma has, because great teams always find a way to win. They always find a way to will themselves to a victory, and it always makes you say, hey, how the heck did they win this game? And for Baylor, I really feel like if you're going to beat Oklahoma, you got to be able to get pressure consistently on the quarterback, and that's just something that I don't really have a lot of faith in this Baylor defense being able to do. So I'm going to take Oklahoma to win this game. 31-27 is going to be my final score prediction in this game. You guys let me know down in the comment section down below who you guys have winning this matchup.